Steven said something interesting the other day. He said there's two kinds of humans only. The first kind are puppets that can't see the strings, and the second kind are puppets that can see the strings. Don't know what that means exactly, but some sort of treatise on determinism, probably. Don't know. I think a problem, one problem that we face here is we have this inner which works at lightning speed, can conceive of anything and everything and millions and billions of variations in a split second, can conceive of worlds and universes, conceive of alternate paths. It's so fast that when you pair that inner state with the cumbersome nature of the realm and the incompatibility of the people that are content to follow the status quo, to ignore the beast system, the ones that aren't willing to dive into pain and suffering to hold with some inner state of knowing, or else they just don't have the inner state of knowing. It just makes it difficult to move. It's difficult to move. It's really amazing to me. It's like there's some ultra sensitive harmonics system that some of us have and some of us don't. Like, I have this internal, beyond subtle thing and it's good because it's amazing and infinite and all these dandy things. And then it also gets me into trouble because there aren't very many out there like that. It's like it's what you get when you go past when you go past everything, basically. It's like having these ideas and then trying to make them happen is too slow. It's too slow. And that's what the linear thing that we are kind of corralled into doing. We're corralled. Each and every human is corralled into doing this linear thing every single day. And it's so slow. It's so cumbersome. It takes so much effort for somebody who has just had an atomic bomb explosion or something internally. And you see too much afterward. It's like... And so then after that, literally every single interaction that is based upon cultural norms or social norms, and that's most of them, it's seen as role-playing, just role-playing, and it's tiresome and draining. And that's not even to mention this silly game of scurrying after money and this like this thing that isolates. It just isolates. It only isolates. The money thing only isolates. Either you're the way for it not to isolate is for you to still be asleep. And then you're getting all the benefits of kind of herd mentality. And you like it because you're sleeping. And then you wake up and you've had the atomic explosion already multiple times. And the whole thing, the whole charade is like, the way I get by, the way I'm always able to get by is it's exploring these infinitely subtle nuances that make up this reality as it's presented to me. That's how I get by, because if you just look at It's too fast. This internal thing that goes on is too fast for the actual realm that it's stuck inside of. It's fast, it's slow, it's moving, it's not moving. It's the convergence point of all the dualities. Knows everything, doesn't know anything. It's like ultimate freedom. And that freedom is at the same time stuck in the thing, you know? I mean, I know what it is. I'm not trying to say that I'm confused about what this is. I know what it is. But sometimes we gotta vent. You don't want to go too fast, you don't want to go too slow. I mean, look at a tree. Trees are patient, right? They just sit around all forever. You don't care if people chop them up and make them into wood. Maybe they do. It's a raccoon. Raccoons walk funky. They walk with their back humped up, like cats when they get pissed off or scared. You see him? See the raccoon? He's just doing his raccoon thing. He doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He doesn't know what a sidewalk is. He just knows that inside of these plastic containers is something that's somewhat edible. It's like once you find the flavor that stays, that remains the same. There's a flavor which they call the present or something like that. And it's this great, silent, unmoving pivot point around which everything else is looking like it's moving. And once you find that, I mean, once you see it and feel it, then there's just literally nothing else to do after that. There's nothing else. And it's, of course, completely and totally fine. Like, it's not a stressful thing or a worry thing or anything like that. It's unmoving. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that thing that has never moved for all of eternity? Ever. And that thing which is actually the true reality. What are you going to do with that? You going to fix it? Run away? I tried running away, you know, when I still believed I was like this physical thing running around, because it freaked me out, you know. Well, it freaked out the part that was still identifying with that. And then after enough cataclysms, enough internal cataclysms, and finding over and over that point, that 0 point, that still point does never change, nothing happens to it ever, then I was like, hey, I already know nothing's ever gonna happen. It never has. So I don't jump on this bandwagon of worrying about when the thing finally is gonna blink out or whatever. It just doesn't matter. So then it's just back to like taking care of the body and, you know, hanging out, making sure the money beast isn't bugging, because the physical things are still there, you know. They haven't gone anywhere. It's just that against the backdrop of unchanging stillness for all of eternity, and even this brings in the possibility of not trying to do the best possible thing for the body or for the people, or trying to be idealistic or whatever, because that also is standing against the backdrop of the thing which never changes ever whatsoever. So it's always back to, you know, like, what? What do you want? It is fascinating though, contrasting the realm that appears to be moving with that part which doesn't. That's where the play for me comes, is bouncing those two off of each other, because there isn't anything else. I mean, if you sit there and think about trying to find a new realm where things are going to be happy all the time, or dream of heavens, or think of if I was really truly connected with God, what would that feel like? You know, or if I was truly connected with the evil one, what would that feel like? And then you remember that those two are also happening within that still space that never moves. What's there to do? And it's not, I'm not saying any of this is bad or good. It's not. It doesn't depress me at all. When you're residing within that stillness, that's where life actually comes from. That's where vitality comes from. That's where your love comes from. That's where your compassion comes from. Your understanding. All of that comes from that spot, that space that everybody has, that everybody is. Everybody is just in various states of not being aware of that, or being aware of it. Because after that has happened, there's no more meaning anymore. No meaning whatsoever. There is, yes, there is meaning, but it's still against the backdrop of the absolute nothing, or the everything, or the still. And there isn't any care for which way the thing goes. And there's also no telling where it's going to go. Where the physical manifestation is going to go. Who knows? Like for me, I can't tell how body mind is going to feel at any given moment. I do know one thing though, and that's that if I get in there and try and tinker around and manage a situation this way or that way, very much at all, I can do little movements with the reality, very small ones. But if I get in there and I just get in there, like, oh, we're gonna go do this, I'm gonna set up a schedule. I'm gonna write down a list of the top 10 things I should be doing in the morning, or I'm gonna set up a schedule for the day. That's a surefire way for all systems to rebel and throw the whole thing into some weird corner. That has happened with me every single time I've tried to do that. Every single time. So every single time I'm like, okay, so shouldn't be tinkering too much. All this, when you've come to this point, okay, if you're still sleeping, like self-help books and things like that will help you. They'll help. But afterwards, after the cataclysm has happened, self-help books don't help at all, because they rely on repetition. And after you've come to this spot, there isn't any more repetition. So how are you going to do that? It doesn't work. Everything's new, never has happened before, ever, never will happen again, and at the same time against the backdrop of nothing ever happened whatsoever. So how is self-help books going to help you? How are plans going to help you? They're not. And then you'll end up like me, sitting in a car the majority of my life to chase down dollars for God knows what reason. You know, that's totally fine. There's nothing to say, so, right? So you say anything. You say everything. You say nothing. And you're very well aware of it at the same time. And as well, nobody can predict anything that you're doing whatsoever. Machines can't predict it. You can't predict it. God can't predict it. And it goes on, however it goes on. Nobody knows. And of course, you know, this for me started off as a measure of self-defense against this deadly beast mind virus that I had to grapple with, that relies on predicting how the thing, and when I say the thing, I mean this realm that spirit is entangled up in, that beast thing relies on the predictability of your actions. And so therefore you find your still spot where there isn't any predictability whatsoever. And the mind virus beast thing isn't there anymore, because it can't predict. You could set a quantum computer up on there and see, like, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Doesn't work anymore. So, I mean, but then I also can't predict it. So it's not necessarily helpful to me, but at the same time, being in that quantum soul-eating regression, this is better. I will say that much. It's somewhat of an equilibrium. My car's always saying maintenance required. So, what do you want to talk about? Birds, bees, flowers, cars, quantum physics, raccoons, the Big Bang Theory, turtles on turtles on turtles all the way down. Mind over matter. Matter doesn't matter. Go to the light. Avoid the light because it's a trap. Maybe I'm just delirious because it's late. I had kind of an intense Reiki session with a friend. Well, he's a friend, but he doesn't remember me ever. We've met like 6 or 7 times, and he's never remembered my name. It's probably because I don't have a name. That's why he's not remembering it. I think that might be why I've been dumpy today, is because when I get on this spiritual push, or follow the thing, there's some inevitable blowback. Yep. I'm still doing my thing though. It's all good. I try to, when I'm feeling down or annoyed or whatever, or rather when the body mind is feeling that way, I try to remember to make these things, because I know everybody's connected, and I know if I'm feeling like shit, then most likely the rest of the awake ones are going through some sort of thing as well. And because we're all used to, not speaking our minds because the beastie doesn't like that, then we hold it inside, and then that becomes corrosive, and then we feel like shit, and then we feel more like shit. And, all we really needed to do was talk to each other and give a hug, say something, shake it up, do something, I don't know. If you made it through this whole thing, congratulations. This is a long silence / words series of linear time blocks that I've shared with you. I wanted to say submitted you to, but I didn't submit you. You didn't have to stay. You're free to do as you want, or as you don't want. As am I. Should be having people on the snail show next week. I think. Yeah. I have a new one. I have a new guest, I believe, next week. So, that should be fun. And possibly, what's his name? Richard. 007. Richard Avery? You know, the guy that does live music at the Colonial or whatever. And stuff like that. Anyway, thanks for listening to all this nonsense babble. Peace.